In Paris, the Bastille had been a prison for pirates. But in the years before the revolution, the authorities gave up trying to imprison pirates. The flow of ideas and information was too strong to be stemmed.
And I think that's the dramatic change that was affected by the printing revolution, where all of a sudden the emergence of a new reading public, the emergence of an undisciplined reading public, which were not subject to the same norms of reading or the same norms of our relation to knowledge as it was in the past, was the dramatic shift.
The fundamental urge to copy has nothing to do with technology. It's about how culture is created. But technology, of course, changes what we can copy, how quickly we can copy, and how we can share it.
What happens when a copying mechanism is invented? And you can take the printing press or you can take BitTorrent. It shapes people's habits. It gives people completely new ideas how they could work together, how they could share, what they could relate to, what their lives could be.
There's no way that an absolutist political system can totally suppress the spread of information. New media adapt themselves to these circumstances, and often they can become even more effective because of the repression.
Why should improvements in our capacity to copy be linked to social change? Because communicating, so fundamental to what we do in the world, is itself an act of copying.
The one technique that brought us to where we are is copying.
Sharing is at the heart of, in some senses, existence. Communication, the need to talk to someone, is an act of sharing. The need to listen to someone is an act of sharing.
Why do we share culture? Why do we share language? Because we imitate each other. This is how we learn to speak, this is how a baby learns, this is how new things come into society and spread through society. Basically what keeps us together is that we copy from each other.
When the spoken word was our only means of communication, we traveled far and wide to deliver it to others. Later, as we began to communicate in written form, armies of scribes multiplied our ideas. Our urge to communicate is so strong that we have always pushed the tools available to us to the limit, then gone beyond them, creating new technologies that reproduce our ideas on previously unimaginable scales. In 1957, the USSR launched Sputnik. In response, the American government authorized massive blue sky spending on science and technology, overseen by a new Advanced Research Projects Agency. It was ARPA, developing the ideas of visionary computer scientist Joseph Licklider, that came up with the concept of networking computers.
It's been hard to share information for years. The printing press, of course, was the great step into sharing information, and we have been needing for a long time some better way to distribute information than to carry it about. The print on paper form is embarrassing because in order to distribute it you've got to move the paper around, and lots of paper gets to be bulky and heavy and expensive to move about.
The ARPANET was designed to allow scientists to share computer resources in order to improve innovation. To make this vision work, ARPANET had to allow each machine on the network to reproduce and relay the information sent by any other. A network in which peers shared resources equally was part of a massive shift from the corporate and commercial communication systems of the past, in which messages radiated from a central point or down through a hierarchy. There was no center, and no machine was more important than another. Anyone could join the network, provided they agreed to abide by the rules, or protocols, on which it operated.
Ever since really the 60s onwards, packet switched networks are the predominant style of communications used today, increasingly so in both voice and data.
The Western world was transforming itself from the rigid production systems of Fordism to fluid work, lean production, and just-in-time delivery.
It's a wonderful age on a beautiful stage demonstrated for you, been created for you. It's just a part of the thrilling start of Century 21.
A post-centralized, friction-free economy needed a communications system just like this.
We didn't build in the 1970s networks of hierarchs. The computers that existed in the world were all multi-million-dollar machines, and they basically interrelated to one another in very equal ways.
One of the really important characteristics of the Internet is that it's extremely decentralized, and that the services on the Internet are invented and operated by other network users.
The network is built so that there's nobody in charge, that everybody has control over their own communications.
In relying on the Internet, society was bringing into its very center a machine whose primary function was the reproduction and distribution of information.
It's an inherent function of the networks that we use today that this data is stored and copied, normally transient, normally very fast, in milliseconds, microseconds. Specialized pieces of equipment such as switches, routers, hubs, etc. do this all in the blink of an eye, but it's the way networks work.
What ARPA's engineers had produced was the blueprint for a massive copying machine without master, which would grow at a fantastic rate into today's Internet.
So this entire area is bristling with information transfer of one type or another. For instance, the local council, Tower Hamlets and Hackney, we're sort of on the border here, have some of the surveillance traffic and security cameras linked via wireless networks themselves. The spectrum environment is getting very dirty or noisy. Every single packet that flies through the multitude of wireless networks and through the Internet is listened for, stored in memory, and retransmitted, i.e. it's copied from one what's called network segment to the next. Now, our media environment now, our media ecosphere now is so broad, so large, that you cannot contain information very easily anymore. You cannot stop or censor information or stop the transmission once it's out there. It's like water through your hands. It's like trying to stop a dam from bursting. I would say right now we are likely in range of wireless microwave radio transmissions that are most likely breaching some sort of copyright law right at this moment.
Try in the back of modernism and all this international law to make profit out of his own ungenerosity to humankind.
One of the main battlegrounds in law, in technology now, is the extent to which it is possible to exclude people from information, knowledge, and cultural goods. The extent to which it's possible to enclose a bit, if you will, of culture and say, it's in a container, you have to pay me in order to access it.
You can make something property if you can build a fence for it. You can enclose something if you can build a wall around it. In the American West, the rangeland was free and all could graze it because it was too expensive to fence it. Barbed wire changed that, and you could turn it into property.
Culture came in these boxes.
Control came naturally as part of the process of the existence of the medium itself.